The morning mist clung to the Crystal Caverns like whispered secrets. Rosalind pulled her cloak tighter as she ventured deeper into the forbidden realm, her basket of healing herbs bouncing gently against her hip. The village elders had warned everyone to stay away from these ancient caves, but Rosalind had always been drawn to places where magic still breathed. She was searching for moonbell flowers, rare blooms that only grew in the deepest shadows of the caverns. Her mentor, the village healer, needed them for a medicine that could save a dying child. The risk was worth it, even if it meant entering dragon territory. The crystals embedded in the cavern walls caught the filtered sunlight, casting rainbow patterns across the stone floor. Rosalind had heard stories of how dragons once made their homes here, but those were just tales from centuries past. Dragons had vanished from the world long ago, leaving only legends and empty caves behind. A low, pained growl echoed through the cavern, stopping Rosalind in her tracks. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she pressed herself against the cool stone wall. The sound came again, weaker this time, filled with suffering rather than threat, against every instinct screaming at her to flee. Rosalind crept toward the source of the sound. She rounded a corner and gasped. There, sprawled across a bed of ancient crystal formations, lay the most magnificent and terrifying creature she had ever seen. The dragon was smaller than the monsters from children's tales, about the size of a large horse, but no less impressive. Its scales shimmered like polished emeralds, and delicate silver patterns traced along its neck and wings. One wing hung at an awkward angle, clearly broken, and dark blood stained the crystal beneath it. The dragon's eyes opened as she approached, revealing irises like molten gold. Instead of the fierce rage she expected, Rosalind saw only exhaustion and pain. The creature tried to lift its head, but collapsed back down with a whimper that tugged at her heart. "You're hurt," she whispered, surprised by her own boldness. The dragon's ear twitched at the sound of her voice, but it made no move to attack. Rosalind set down her basket and slowly approached. Every legend told her that dragons were dangerous, that they breathed fire and destroyed everything in their path. But looking at this wounded creature, all she could see was suffering that mirrored what she had witnessed and injured. "Animals back home, I won't hurt you," she said softly, the same tone she used with frightened woodland creatures. "Let me help." The dragon watched her with those intelligent golden eyes as she examined the broken wing. The bone was fractured but not shattered. With the right care, it could heal. She had never treated a dragon before, but healing was healing, and this creature needed her from her basket. She pulled out strips of clean cloth and a bottle of numbing salve made from silver root. The dragon tensed as she began to clean the wound, but it did not pull away. Instead, it seemed to understand that she was trying to help. "There," she murmured as she carefully bound the wing. "That should help with the pain." The dragon made a soft, rumbling sound, almost like a cat's purr. It lifted its great head and gently nuzzled her hand, the gesture so tender that tears sprang to Rosalind's eyes. "What's your name?" she asked, feeling foolish for talking to a creature that couldn't answer, but the dragon tilted its head as if considering the question. A warm sensation filled Rosalind's mind, and suddenly she knew. Not words, but feelings and images. Ancient caves filled with crystal song, the loneliness of being the last guardian. The name that echoed through empty halls. "Ember," she breathed, and the dragon's eyes brightened with surprise and something that looked like joy as the day wore on. Rosalind found herself staying longer than she had planned. She gathered water from a crystal spring to help Ember drink, and even managed to find some moonbell flowers growing near the dragon's resting place. But more than that, she found herself fascinated by this ancient creature who defied everything she had been taught about dragons. Ember is intelligent, gentle, and desperately lonely. Through their strange mental connection, Rosalind glimpsed fragments of a life spent guarding treasures that no one came to claim, protecting a realm that had been forgotten by the world above. "I have to go," she finally said, as shadows began to lengthen. "But I'll come back tomorrow. I promise." Ember's response was a warm pulse of gratitude that filled her chest like sunshine as Rosalind made her way back through the caverns, Her mind raced with the impossibility of what had just happened. She had befriended a dragon. More than that, she felt a connection to Ember that she had never experienced with another living being. The village came into view as evening painted the sky purple and gold. Rosalind clutched her basket of moonbell flowers, the excuse for her journey. But her thoughts remained in the crystal caves with a lonely dragon who had looked at her like she was the answer to prayers, spoken in an ancient language she didn't know it yet. But her life had just changed forever. The bond forming between her and Ember was stronger than friendship, deeper than trust. It was the beginning of a love story that would challenge everything both of them believed about their worlds. Tomorrow, she would return to the caverns. Tomorrow, the real adventure would begin. The next morning, Rosalind could barely contain her excitement as she prepared another basket of supplies. She told her mentor she was gathering more rare herbs, which wasn't entirely a lie. Her heart raced as she approached the Crystal Caverns. Wondering if yesterday had been a dream, Ember was awake when she arrived. Those golden eyes tracking her movement with obvious pleasure. The dragon's wing looked better already. The swelling reduced thanks to her care. "Good morning, beautiful," Rosalind whispered, and Ember's rumbling purr filled the cavern. Over the following weeks, their bond deepened in ways that defied explanation. Ember shared memories through their mental connection, showing Rosalind visions of the world from centuries past when dragons soared freely through crystal-clear skies. In return, Rosalind spoke of her dreams, her fears, and her growing feelings for this magnificent creature who listened with such understanding there. Connection transcended the physical world. When Ember was fully healed, the dragon began to take on a human form during their visits. The magic was ancient, a gift from the old world that allowed dragons to walk among humans when love called to them. In human form, Ember appeared as a tall, elegant figure with emerald green eyes and silver-streaked hair. But the gentle soul remained unchanged. "You're even more beautiful like this," Rosalind breathed the first time she saw the transformation. "And you are the light that brought me back to life." Ember replied in a voice like distant thunder. Their love grew with each stolen moment. They would spend hours talking, sharing gentle touches, and exploring the deeper caverns together. Ember showed Rosalind hidden gardens of crystal flowers that sang in harmonious chimes, and underground lakes that reflected starlight even in daylight. But their secret couldn't last forever. Theron, a young warrior from the village, had been watching Rosalind's frequent disappearances with growing suspicion. He had harbored feelings for her since childhood and couldn't understand why she seemed so distant lately. So radiant, yet distracted. One evening, he followed her to the caverns and witnessed something that shattered his understanding of the world. Through a gap in the crystal formations, he saw Rosalind in the arms of a creature that shifted between human and dragon form. His shock quickly turned to rage and fear. Theron raced back to the village and burst into the elders' meeting hall. "Dragon," he shouted. "There's a dragon in the Crystal Caverns, and Rosalind has been bewitched by it." The village erupted in panic. Dragons in the old stories were harbingers of destruction. A hunting party was quickly assembled, armed with ancient weapons, blessed by the village priests. They would march at dawn to destroy the creature and save Rosalind from its evil influence. When Rosalind arrived at the caverns the next morning, she found Ember pacing anxiously in dragon form. Wings spread wide in agitation. "They're coming," Ember said through their connection. "I can smell their fear and hatred on the wind. You must leave, my beloved." "It's not safe for you here. I won't abandon you," Rosalind declared, tears streaming down her face. There has to be another way. But even as she spoke, they could hear the sound of approaching voices echoing through the caverns. The hunting party had arrived, and they were armed for war. The villagers burst into the main chamber with Theron leading the charge, his sword gleaming in the crystal light. Behind him came a dozen armed men, their faces set with grim determination. "Stand away from that beast, Rosalind," Theron commanded. "We've come to free you from its dark magic." Rosalind stepped protectively in front of Ember, who had reared up to full height but made no aggressive moves. "There is no dark magic here," she called back. "Only love that you refuse to understand." "Dragons are destroyers," shouted one of the elders. They corrupt the hearts of humans and bring ruin to our lands. Look around you, Rosalind. Gestured to the beautiful crystal gardens, the singing formations, the pure water springs. Does this look like destruction? Ember is the guardian of this place, the protector of its beauty. Theron's face twisted with jealousy and disbelief. It has poisoned your mind, Rosalind. Come with us willingly, or we'll take you by force. The hunters began to advance, weapons raised. Ember's throat began to glow with inner fire, not in threat but in desperate preparation to defend the woman who had become everything to the lonely dragon. Stop, Rosalind cried, spreading her arms wide. I won't let you hurt each other. In that moment of crisis, something extraordinary happened. The crystals around them began to sing, their harmonious chimes growing louder and more beautiful. The sound seemed to emanate from Rosalind herself, as if her love for Ember had awakened some ancient magic sleeping in the caverns. The hunters froze, their weapons lowering as the crystal song washed over them. In the melody, they heard not destruction, but creation, not corruption, but purity. The sound told the true story of dragons, of guardians who had protected the world's beauty for countless ages until fear drove them into hiding. Do you hear it? Rosalind asked, her voice carrying clearly over the crystal chorus. Do you hear the truth? Even Theron's harsh expression began to soften as the music touched something deep in his heart. The song spoke of sacrifice, of creatures who gave up their freedom to guard sacred places, of love that transcended the boundaries between species. Ember stepped forward, transforming slowly into human form, while the crystals continued their ancient song. I am the last guardian of this realm, Ember said, voice filled with dignity and sorrow. For 3 centuries, I have protected these sacred crystals that purify the water flowing to your village, that keep the earth stable beneath your homes. I have never asked for gratitude, only to be left in peace. The revelation struck the villagers like a physical blow. Their clean water, their fertile soil, their protection from earthquakes, all had been the gift of the dragon they had come to destroy. And now, Ember continued, golden eyes finding Rosalind's, I have found something more precious than duty. Love has awakened in my heart for the first time in centuries. Rosalind brought light to my darkness, healing to my loneliness. Rosalind felt tears streaming down her face as she realized what was about to happen. Ember, no. The choice is yours, my beloved, Ember said softly. I can give up my dragon nature and become fully human to live among your people. But if I do, the guardianship of this realm will end. The protection I have provided will fade. There's another way, Rosalind whispered, understanding flooding through her heart. The crystals are singing to me, showing me the path. She stepped into the center of the crystal formation and placed her hands on the largest stone. The singing intensified, and light began to flow through her body, transforming her very essence. I choose love, she declared, and I choose to become the guardian alongside you. Magic older than memory coursed through Rosalind, changing her human form into something new, something between mortal and eternal. Her hair took on silver highlights that matched Ember's, and her eyes gained flecks of crystal blue. She felt her lifespan extending, her senses sharpening, her connection to the earth deepening, the transformation complete. Rosalind and Ember stood together as the new guardians of the Crystal Caverns. They were no longer fully human or fully dragon, but something beautiful and unique, bound together by love and purpose. Theron lowered his sword completely, his anger replaced by wonder. I understand now, he said quietly. Forgive me. The villagers returned home with a new understanding of the guardians who protected them. They built a shrine at the entrance to the caverns, leaving offerings of gratitude rather than weapons of war. Rosalind and Ember lived for countless years as the guardians of the Crystal Caverns, their love growing stronger with each passing season. They protected the sacred realm together, and their story became a legend told to children. A tale of how love could bridge any divide and create magic more powerful than fear in the deepest chamber of the caverns, where crystal flowers bloomed eternal and starlight danced on underground lakes. 2 hearts beat as one, proving that true love knows no boundaries, not even those between species, between mortal and magical, between earth and sky.